Good evening, everybody. Having kind of a soggy evening here in Pittsburgh. Fortunately, they got most of the base stone in the driveway down to where the barn's supposed to be today. So, all right, I guess. '79 is sunny in Seattle. Way up in Seattle, huh? I'd expect it in Orlando. Global warming, that's right. Okay, as we can see, after the big Morningstar signal in the Dow, which is usually a compelling reversal because the bigger the signal, the more there's been a change of investor sentiment. Today was not a day that signified there was any change of that reversal. They used the 50 as support, closed indecisively, making it very simple. If we see a positive open tomorrow in the Dow, it means the uptrend's in progress. Bah. Same scenario with the S&P 500. Well, that was different. What am I looking at? S&P was weaker. What was I looking at? It had the same chart. Apparently nothing. Notice the transportation index came back pretty hard, closed right on the 50, but the weakest of all of them was the NASDAQ, which closed well below the open rate at the 50, traded off, closed back here, kind of giving us the impression they aren't getting up above the T-line. The NASDAQ is still in a downtrend. So even though there's a good possibility they could be opening it higher, making the Dow break out, the rest of the indexes aren't following suit right now. Yeah, something... well, none of them are coming up over on this side. All right. And the Russell 2000 also came back into the back below the T-line. So essentially, the indexes, all except the Dow, are trading back below the T-line, meaning there should be some more downside. All right, some of the other indicators. Crude oil is still in this downtrend. Let's make this a little bit smaller. Downtrend, hit the 50, failed again. Still should probably be in this downtrending channel. We're not in the oversold area yet. So I would suspect they could be taking it down in here toward the maybe about the $85 range on crude oil. Let's see what else. Gold, nothing compelling here. Still in a downtrend. Did a bullish Harami today, so they could bring it back up. And that, I think, was more evident here in the silver. Silver kind of did a kicker signal. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Kicker signal. So if it came up through the T-line, that would probably be an indication there's going to be some more buying of silver at this point. The interest rates, bond prices, still moving up slowly. Let's make it. So there's really this kind of this waffling sideways mode here for the last month and a half, telling us interest rates aren't doing too much of anything. So there's really nothing influencing the market at this point. Some of the other commodities, soybeans broke out a little bit today. Wheat also broke out, came back up, started curling back up above the T line, and corn also started showing some strength. So they're showing some strength. There, as you can see, they're in a massive downtrend. There might be a pop. Even if it came up to the 50, they'd still be in a downtrend. I went short in the dollar today because this is by knowing where different things occur, such as, notice what they did on Friday. They had a huge, I hate that thing, huge up day on Friday. Where do most people buy? They buy exuberantly at the top. So if there was something wonderful going on in the U.S. dollar, it should have headed higher. But after a big move to the upside and they started trading it off, I shorted it on the weakness, or on weakness, on the basis that this was the last gas buying. We should see it start trading lower. So it's trading right here after hours, a little bit lower from where it closed. But that is still a little bit different than where it was in the downtrend in the after hours, right after they have different times where they close the main market and then the electronic market continues. So anyways, this was more to illustrate that I made some good profits on the basis that if we know that, just like the Japanese rice traders show us graphically, where do most people buy? They buy enthusiastically at the top. So if you see that big move to the upside at the top, start looking for a sell signal. All right, let's see. I guess that's it. Gold, silver, dollar. Euro popped back up, and the Japanese yen. Whoops. Japanese yen trying to bottom, and nothing here yet that would tell me there's any direction yet of whether they're still taking it down or starting to take it up. For the, that's, okay. Is a bullish engulfing more powerful than a piercing signal? Yes. Yeah, it's usually a little bit more compelling that there's been a drastic change of investor sentiment. But the piercing signal also has different elements to it, that the deeper they open the piercing signal, which is below the previous day's close, the deeper down they, oh, we didn't do cattle, that's right. The deeper down they open it, the more likely they are taking it, and they bring it back up through the halfway point of that candle, the more likely they've taken out a lot of the sellers and the bulls stepped in. Cattle, still in a slow uptrend. This one, all you can do is stay long until you see a sell signal. And hogs also a good-looking chart. Let's see. I didn't have any hogs yet. So, all right. Now, the hogs have a good-looking chart because you had your big bullish engulfing. You've got your slow curve. Looks like your selling is over with. And let's see. That's... All right, I'm trying to think of anything else. I don't know what the cash index is on here, Candle Trader. Okay. All right, some of the things that we had to address today is there's still a good visual argument for knowing when to close out a position. And that's when it closes back below the T line. We were long RPRX on the basis that we had a best friend signal, but then it came back after a little bearish engulfing signal through kind of 2 weak signals, a shooting star type signal, even though we were just coming out of the oversold area, and a close below the T line tells us there's not a lot of energy. Now, it may be moving like this, but there's not a lot of energy in this up move until you see another strong buy signal. RADA was a small stock that we've been following. Because of the breakout, the consolidation started back up, but today's close below the T line told us it's lost energy. It might be in a wedge type formation. That means it's going to take it a while to get some new strength to come in. So this one should have been closed out. Now, the reason for today's newsletter or the afternoon newsletter, was that there are still good-looking stock charts out there that we can take advantage of on the bullish side as well as the bearish side. This big fry pan bottom, the breakout, strong price move, J-hook pattern with a scoop pattern doing the J-hook, tells us we want to stay long, probably at the same magnitude as this. So we have a stock that is going to keep climbing, hopefully, based upon the pattern. And this is why it's very important to learn the different patterns and what the ramifications of each one are, because in a market where it's not very enthusiastic in one direction or the other, the patterns are still going to work effectively, because that's why we recognize them in the first place, is because there's an independent force creating that pattern, and one of the forces is one of the aspects is that they are buying candlestick signals and patterns, or the accumulative knowledge of everybody buying and selling during a particular time frame. And during that time frame, if everybody knows the market's going down and they're still buying, that's because there's some sort of knowledge out there that wants them to keep that keeps them buying, even though they already know the market might be heading in the opposite direction. Okay, that one, and NQ also has a nice looking chart. Let's make this a little bit bigger. This one you can continue to buy with the support right here at the 50. If they break this out, there's still a good possibility they can take it up here to the 200-day moving average. Can this stock still be bought? Oh, let's see. On VIM, probably yes. Because if this moved from 3 to 9, right about in here from 9 to probably about the $15 area. If a stock closes below the T line and you are unable to sell before the close, when is the best time to sell the next day? I have been burnt selling early the next day, only to see the stock go up after 30 or 45 minutes. Usually if the market opens lower, whoops, the market opens lower, close out the position, because the probabilities are that they're not moving it up. However, here's one of the aspects of investing that you have a great advantage of using candlestick charts, because if you can see that they opened it lower, took it down, and started bringing it back up, you can always buy it back. People have to learn pretty much that we're not trying to get every single dollar or penny in a price move. We're trying to be in a position where we know the probabilities are moving in our favor, and even if we have to get in, get out, get in, get out, and get in when it's still time to get in, we're looking for the moves that when they move, they negate all these little ins and outs, which were just the cost of doing business. Yeah, Gordon, no, they're on the dollar, except we have one caveat about the T line, which is the further away you move from the T line, the higher the probability they're going to come back and test it. And if you add the factor that you're in an uptrend in the overbought condition, and you see a big move to the upside, that's usually the last gaps. So the probabilities were that on any weakness you could be shorting, because I hate that thing, they could be coming back down to test the T-line. So it made a good trade. Right now I've got a bearish Harami in the overbought condition. Still watching to see if they start continuing to trade this off. They could be taking it down some. If they support here at the T-line, I'll just close out the position. No, there's no bull kicker on this one. Just some bottoming action. Okay. Yeah, I'll get to the individual stocks at the end. Victor, that'll be another, yeah, if this, whoops. If you have a stock that's not acting right, and you've got the calls also, that if it opens lower, you close out the position. Get as much back as you can to move on to something else. Yeah, I'll get to the individual stocks. When we get all done, I'll tell Jim to do the double line, and after he puts up the double line is when you put in individual stock requests. Okay. Where was I? Oh, all right. So during the kind of an iffy market, we still have some good stock charts that are very easy to identify that they're still in an uptrend, as we saw in AMBA today. Notice the trend kicker and the doji. This would still be an implication that we're moving higher and staying above this T-line. And basically, because we've got the classic fry pan bottom, strong price move, J-hook pattern, and note how the J-hook pattern turned back up, big bullish engulfing signal. So we're still in wave 3. I would suspect they're going to come back up, at least test the high, because up to here, still getting you close, maybe not quite the same magnitude move as this. Same scenario with G-Pro. Fry pan bottom, J-hook. Now we're in another J-hook, and notice how they did kind of a trend kicker on this one, down day, and then they gapped it up. So I'm still pretty certain they will take this to 100 before everybody starts doing profit taking. NQ is kind of a shooting star, but you're still in this uptrend, and your stochastics are not in the overbought condition. So I'd put very little credence on the fact that this would be a shooting star just yet, especially when you're looking more at the pattern, that you've got this big rounding bottom, and now they're starting to pick up steam on it. Would you have gotten out of G-Pro with the sell signal? I did. I closed out G-Pro on this day because it was a doji gap up in the overbought condition, and they opened it lower. So I took profits and then came back in here. So I bought, I forget which ones they were, but whatever I bought around $2, and I sold them for, shoot, I can't remember now. It was a big number, like a 13 or 17 up here. And then came back, and because we're now in a more risk area, I bought spreads to kind of minimize the risk, and don't need the same magnitude move to make a good percent profit. Do you find yourself jumping between different candlestick time frames, 15 minute to 1 minute on a single stock to find the moving averages? No, I keep I keep all the moving averages the same on all the charts. But if I can look at the daily and say, oh, and we did that on TKMR, when it started hitting the T-line the first time, going to the 10-minute chart looked like they were going to try to to take it back up. Then they turned it around. So the calls on this one, ones I bought today, are right about where they were. So I just want to see this one, man. So anyway, this is more to illustrate that something sold off big and hard when it came back up through the T line. That might tell you is time to buy back in. On GPro, no, I bought a debit spread because we were still more than 2 weeks out to expiration date. Usually I don't do credit spreads until about a week prior to expiration. What if a stock opens higher the next day after it closed below the T line? Do you hold it or sell it? I hold it because that's what it has to do. Let's see. For example, to hold this one, it has to open higher and trade higher. Now, if it opens higher and trades up, I know where my stop is. It shouldn't come back down through the previous day's close because it opens up, trades up, and then comes back down there. That tells me the bears are still in control. I want to close it out at that point. Why are you buying calls? Because I'm an option trader. Is this a trick question? Oh, because I was buying on the basis that because this is not a reversal signal, this is just a down day in an uptrend, not caused by a change of investor sentiment, but caused more by supply and demand because somebody put out or downgraded it. Some people were selling it based on that downgrade. Prior to that, the investor sentiment had been positive. So the supply and demand for one day doesn't really bother me. As a matter of fact, it usually creates an opportunity to get back in. So if that were the case, sometimes on a downgrade, you see them take it down, everybody gets out of it, and then the bulls step right back in and they take it right back up again. That's what I was hoping for today. So tomorrow, it will need to open positive and trade positive to stay in that. If they start trading it down further, I'll probably close out the calls at that point. Okay, what else we got here? GPro. We'd recommended Land's End. That's got a very good chart to it. Oh, pshaw. Because it did a left-right combo, Morningstar type signal, and came back up doing a J-hook pattern. So this one you stay with as long as it stays positive. Now, Dougly had a very good chart on the open today. It gapped up at the T-line and started trading higher. But this is, again, part of the discipline of staying with the factor of you want to cut your losses short and let your profits run. So one of the aspects is if you buy something that looks good and at the end of the day it doesn't look good, close it out. Because should I get out of TKMR, Carmen, it needs to open positive tomorrow and trade positive, or at least do a doji day tomorrow. So on something like this, buying it and it coming back and down or closing back below the T line, close it out. Because what's the expectation if it's closing back below the T line? It's still in a downtrend and it's probably coming down to the 50. We'll watch it again to see if that's the time to buy. Because when they hit the 50, remember, the aspects of candlesticks is that we can see exactly what's going on in investor sentiment right at the time that it hits important technical levels, like we saw in Fold. Now, a lot of questions today, should we close out Fold? Because it did a bearish engulfing signal. Remember, a bearish engulfing signal is important if you're up in the overbought condition. We're still heading up. So this one didn't close below the T-line. It has to open positive and trade positive to stay in it. Now, if it opens lower, we'll close it out because where is it heading? It's probably heading back to the 50 to try see if it's going to be support one more time. On Land's End, where should the stop be? At this point, I would use the T-line. Even though that's a good fur piece away, the probabilities are that we're in a J-hook pattern heading higher. We'll get to C's. John, hold on for a second. We'll get to that when we get to the short positions. What else did we have? Oh, we did CKMR. And CONN backed off today, but didn't do any sell signal. Now, again, we still want to see this open positive. If it opens lower, you might take profits, but with the idea that it's profit taking, probably coming back to the T line and then coming right back in again. Yeah. All right. Let's see what else. Okay, we had, APJ is another one that looked good for a while, but the fact that it, that's not it. HPJ, who wrote this? This one should be closed out because it closed below the T line. It needed to open higher and trade higher, which it was doing in the morning. But then when it started coming back down through the T line, that told us that the energy was running out. We're probably in an uptrend, but it's probably going to have to come back here to find support. And why do I say here? Because if you can draw a line up here, let me see if I can do that. Trend, pointer tools, trend channel. If you can draw a line up through the tops and kind of draw a line through the bottoms, that's probably your trend channel. So with it closing below the T line, it's more likely to head back here, so there's no sense holding on to it. You could always buy it back if it does a buy signal at the the bottom of the channel. Okay, let's see. We did fold because fold had the picture perfect reversal. Doji, Morningstar signal, close above the T line, bouncing off the 50. You want to stay long on this one. And AMX also bouncing right up off the 50, did a doji. Makes this very simple. If this opens positive tomorrow, what type of signal do we have breaking through the T line? A flutter kicker type signal, which tells us there's probably going to be more upside, or wave 1, wave 2, bouncing right off the 50 going into wave 3. And Con, how do you use the 3T line? Right now it hasn't closed below the 3T line, let alone the T line. So as long as it stays up above the T line, you just stay long. You just stay long. If you see a sell signal and it hasn't closed below the 3T line, that still means you're still a very strong uptrend. But you see a sell signal and it starts coming back down through the 3T, then you got a good prospect that's going to come back to the T line. So depending on how active or how aggressive you are as a trader, you take profits and wait for it to go to the T line, or if it's fairly close to the T line in the first place, you just sit with it and then see what it does at the T line. Another one, CENX, bullish Harami, right smack dab on the 50-day moving average with a doji right here on the T line, makes the trading very simple. If it opens positive, you buy immediately because your doji sandwich, bullish confirmation of a Harami bouncing off the 50, trading up above the T line, breaking out through this area, pretty much tells you you're in wave 3. And it's very simple. You use the T line as your stop. It shouldn't come back through that area. When a stock opens positive, do you purchase right away or wait? I wait, but my wait may be 30 seconds or 3 minutes. I just want to see that it hasn't opened positive and then immediately started trading down. If it does that, I don't know whether that's weakness coming into it or profit taking. So very simply, I put my buy stop right above the open, because if it pulls back and then turns around and heads back up the way we thought it should, it tells me the profit taking's over. I want to be getting into that position. Marty, I include all the data. because that is all the trading that's going on. Oh, David, that coming back up through the open could be 2 minutes. It could be 2 hours. It could be 2 days. Let's see. For example, on Angie's list that we recommended today, it opened and started trading off, so there wasn't any reason to jump into it. But then it came back up toward the top of the trading range today. Let's make this bigger, which makes this very simple. If our analysis already is that they've gapped this up, got kind of a scoop type pattern, they're trading above the 50 and they're trading well above the T-line, and they're using the 3T line as support, telling us this is still in a strong uptrend. If this comes up through yesterday's or today's open and tomorrow's trading, you want to be buying. That tells you the profit taking's over, that this whole pattern is still in effect. So it might open right here and trade here for 30 minutes and then start heading up. When it comes up through, that's when I'll be buying. Let me see what else we got here. ALNY. That's a nice little kind of a scoop. This one you can be buying on positive trading tomorrow. Because where's your expected next move? Right up here. So you're looking like it's going to head up into about the $86, $87 range. Angie list 830-ish. I don't know where to close. Yeah. If the high today was 828, yeah, put a buy stop at 830. You'll know it's heading, it's confirming the everything that prior to that, strong buying. Meg was another one that backed off today, but it still had a bullish engulfing signal, scoop type pattern, closed above the T line, and backed off today, but didn't close below the 3T line. Stochastic still heading up. Now it did close more than halfway down this candle, so right about the halfway point. So this one's very simple. It needs to open higher and trade higher to stay in it, and or no, let's see, it was ALNY. To stay in this one, you want to see it open positive. Let's see, this one, that's because I goofed up. Wolf, same scenario. This becomes a very strong buy if it comes back up through today's open. You have the Morningstar, Doji, best friend. Anytime you see a Morningstar signal and the third leg of it is a Doji gap up, that alone tells you there's some strength coming into this, and that's your best friend. So even though this backed off today right to the moving averages, if it opens positive and starts trading positive, you can be buying this, because what's that telling us as far as the pattern? At least wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 at this point. On Angie, you would buy even though it's at the 3T line. Yeah, the 3T line I would buy because it hasn't come back even down through the 3T line. If something is trading above the T line, it's in an uptrend. If something's trading above the 3T line, you got to figure that uptrend is relatively strong. So, and this is exactly what this whole pattern is telling us, is when they did a down day and then gapped it up, there's a lot of strength in this. This just happened to be a consolidation type day today. And what else was I looking at? NM, one of the shipping stocks. This one has got a good reversal signal closing right on the T line. Makes it very simple. If they open this positive and start trading positive, you can be buying this. Just use the T line as your stop. Nice little Morningstar type, just barely a Morningstar type signal. Now Tweeter was somewhat along the same lines as what did we just take a look at? ALNY, which was a nice little Morningstar breakout. Or did I do that backwards? Maybe I did. ANLY. Did I do that backwards? No, couldn't have. ANLY. No, I just did that. ALNY. I get so confused. Oh, yes. So this is a nice looking chart. Expect it to come to the top of the trend channel. And then Tweeter, notice kind of the flutter kicker type setup where they gapped up and traded positive on Thursday, then confirmed on Friday by breaking out. Even though it did a little backing and filling today, still has the prospect of going into wave 3 or along this trajectory. You can see it up here in the $62 range. And this, because you can see exactly when it's moving, which should be right now, makes for very good timing if you're trading options to get in the position right at the right time. Here's another little scoop type pattern on LRCX with doji gap up. So Morningstar signal with two stars. Wouldn't be afraid to be buying this one on positive trading. Next price move, top of this channel, taking me up here in the $82, $83 range. Let's see. Oh, Tesla. Tesla, I'm kicking myself because I knew from this point right here, positive trading, it was going higher, and I didn't do anything about it. But you had your downtrend, you've got your best friend. I would suspect they're coming bringing Tesla up at least to test this level, which is the gap right here. And if they get that close and still have some steam, then they're going to start testing this area up here. How can you use T-line as a stop if you can't watch charts during the day? You can put in a, let's see, which one could we use as illustration? IPRX. You can put in a stop close on this trade if it closes below whatever the T line is. Let's say it's 1040. If it closes below 1040, sell or close me out on the close. So if you see where the T line is, let's see. Yeah, but the driveway has a new bedrock rather than profit Tesla. Yeah. No, I've already pulled money out to pay for the driveway. Hawk B. This one has a nice J-hook pattern. Get ready to buy this one on positive trading tomorrow. And anytime you see a Morningstar signal, and I've only got a few examples here, you want to be buying because that tells you there's been a drastic change. So if this opens positive, this is ANFI, Amera Nature Foods. You can buy this on the anticipation that wave 3 is in progress. And apparently the food companies, Dean Foods, for example, also has a very nice bullish chart. This one can be bought on positive trading tomorrow because notice you have a doji, bullish confirmation, a break of the downtrending channel as well as the T-line. Should pop back up here at least to the 50, which is this downtrending channel resistance. So ANFI has low volume. Let me see. Oh, it's not bad. It had 460,000 shares traded in it today. I wouldn't be too concerned about that type of volume unless you're going in. Average is only that amount. Let me take a look here. Yeah, there are days that it does get a little bit skimpy. So if you're buying this one, just be a little bit careful. The volume might only be 100, but even 160,000 on a $15 stock, unless you're going in for 20,000 shares, I'd be a little bit concerned. If you're going in for 1,000 shares or 2,000 shares, I wouldn't be that concerned. Okay, now ANFI and HPQ. Anytime you see that morning star, usually there's going to be a slingshot effect to the upside. ANDE, this one's got a good looking chart because you've got your gap up through the T line. This one you can start buying on positive trading, especially if they can get up through the 50 and the 20. But if they open this positive, it basically tells us that the profit taking that was seen early or at the end of the day or during the day is over. The doji gap up is still in effect. Oh, we did that. Okay. Now, on the other side, especially with this market, not looking really like the bulls have stepped in with great enthusiasm just yet. That a lot of the indexes, say a lot of the indexes, there's only 4 of them that really, 4 or 5 of them. Whoops, what did I just done? Have shown that they haven't been able to get up above the T line, and they're still in this downtrending channel. So we're still short stocks like SA or SLAE sale. And the reason for that is, first of all, let me make this much smaller. Got to check to see which direction is this stock going. Obviously, it's going in a downtrend. So with that as a simple analysis, that you start seeing that they can't get up above the T line, makes just a very simple assumption. This stock is still in a downtrend until you see a dramatic buy signal. So we'll stay short until we see this little buy signal or close back up above the T line. Brody, what's the best volume? My very minimum is 200,000 shares a day with a minimum price of $5 on a stock. And the reason for that is, for the $5, is most brokerage firms will not margin a stock less than $5. And I know every time I put on a trade, I have the probabilities in my favor, so I want to get as much leverage as possible, even if that's just margining. On the other hand, I want to be able to get in and out of a position. I don't want to be sitting here for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 2 hours trying to close out a position. So I want, and there's enough stocks out there. Out of the 7,800 trading entities, there's 2,700 stocks out there that trade more than 200,000 shares on average each day, trading above $5. So that still gives me plenty of stocks to find different positions. Ford, yeah, right now, if you're a trader, you stay short. We're still holding this long term. We're looking for another place to buy some more in here. And we are short C's. Now, John, you can ask whatever your question was on C's. There you go. With the slow movement, is it advisable to close the position at this point in favor of a better performer? You still have to analyze what the chart is doing. We're still in kind of a dumpling top. And notice the buying that has occurred. And what do we know about the nature of a doji? It's very indecisive. So for the last 2 or 3 days, traded it just slightly positive, very indecisively. What's that tell me? That tells me they aren't taking this up. They're just apparently some short profit taking. I'm looking for the next wave to the downsides. Somewhat alike soda. Notice it came up for a couple of days, doji, and they're taking it back down. There's that big dumpling top. Now the dumpling top is the opposite of a fry pan bottom. What do we expect out of a big slow fry pan bottom? A big price move to the upside. Same scenario for a dumpling top. What do we expect coming out of here? Big pressure to the downside. Still short Cree because it was coming out of that slow curve and it's still trading down. Now, when they gap it down, took some profits on some calls, but then switched them over into lower price calls because what's the aspect or what's the result of investor sentiment? If they've slammed this to the downside, you start looking for a buy signal, but there's still probably some more residue selling before that buy signal will show up. And let me see what else we got. CZR was another one that we mentioned going short. Because notice, again, the simple analysis. Which direction is this trend? Pretty much in a downtrend. And notice what it does every time it gets to the 50. They sell it back off. Now, notice what it did right here at the support level or a potential support level. They did a bearish doji sandwich. And what do we know about a doji sandwich? There's going to be more follow through. So if they do a doji sandwich through a support level, that tells us we're still in this next leg to the downside. Do you mean puts? I don't know. What did I say, Hal? I don't remember what I said in which one. On Cree. Yeah, I still own the, what did I say, calls? Still own the puts on this one. Oh, on Cree, I misspoke. What I did was I owned the puts, had big profits. I closed out the puts, and then the ones that I had big profits in, and then I bought lower priced puts further down because of the higher risk and less money. So I took my big profits out, still added more puts at I think the 3250s at a much lower price, because if it still moves in that direction, I'm making money. If it fizzles, I've got most of my profits out of this trade. What charts do you work with? It doesn't really matter. We were just looking at this, and then whatever time frame you want to go back to see what the chart looks like. In this case, Cree had this big dumpling top, and they cratered it as we expected. I've closed out some of Ford and some of the long-term accounts, but not very much. Because it's right now back to a support level. I'm watching to see if it's time to buy. Because this is, I still think this will be a $25, $30 stock over the next 6 to 12 months. So this might be giving us an opportunity to buy it 30% cheaper. How do you make a decision to short a stock versus buying puts? That's up to each individual, Sam, of what they're trading. Some people like to short stock because they trade stocks. Some people like to buy puts because they trade options. Or in our case, some accounts I've got short stock positions, and other accounts I've got the puts of that same stock. We're also still short FTK because it's got a bearish J-hook pattern in progress. So if this is wave one, looking for wave two or look for wave two to end, wave three should end up down here in about the $15, $16 range. Do you tend to make more with options or trading stock? Again, that's still, it depends on which account. The bigger accounts want to stay with the stocks. My little trading account that I use for accumulating money to buy a barn, mostly trading options or futures. And UTHR. Now this is one that's had a nice strong move, and this is our example of 45 degree. When you see a big breakout move, usually they'll move 45 degree until you see a sell signal and a close below the T line. Now they're starting to sell this off. Stochastic's heading down. They might be coming back to test a support level, maybe back here at the 50, which would be right around this support level. Oops, hold on. I've got apple cider here tonight because it's apple cider season. XOOM, notice the rounding top, notice the failure at the 200. Now notice the doji gap down. What sets this imply? Wave 1, wave 2, now a dumpling top, gap down. Wave 3 should have some strong downside to it. And OCN, another dumpling top, and notice what it did back here at the T-line. Doji, double doji, failure. So if this one had a move from 35 down to 25, means somewhere right in here, you could be moving from maybe the 26 range down to the $16 range. Oh, I don't know whether it's pasteurized or unpasteurized. Sure, it's pasteurized since I bought it in the store. What else am I looking at? HAR. Same scenario. They can't get this one up through the T-line. A little failure. Every time I see something fail at the T-line, especially with a doji, and then you sell it off, it means there's going to be more downside. There's another gap down on Buffalo Wings. Which way is this stock heading? It's heading in a downtrend. Now you've got some force to it again. There should be more downside to this one. Where you might take this downtrending channel, taking you all the way down into this area, maybe about the 115 range. And I reshorted soda because it came up and did this little double doji and started selling off. And notice what type of pattern we have here. That dumpling top. Why do we like the dumpling tops? Because just like a fry pan bottom, this is where investor sentiment is choppy, then flat. Now they're selling, and where do they start really selling big? Over here. If they start breaking this down, there should be another wave 3 to the downside. Okay, I think that's about all I've got for tonight. Are there any general questions on candlesticks? One time you mentioned the patterns and the signals were good to do option trades. What are they again? Signals with gaps, J-hook, fry pan. You got most of them, yes. But yeah, your best friend signal is a very strong uptrend or a very strong downtrend. A breakout of a fry pan bottom or a breakout of a J-hook pattern. All are good timing situations. You know exactly when to start coming in and buying calls or puts depending on which way you're going. Would you buy calls on NRF? If so, which ones and why? Oops, that's probably more than I could. You can. The only problems with REITs, though, are, maybe it's not a REIT. Is this a REIT? I would first take a look. Now, remember, you're 2 weeks away from expiration. So you might take a look at something like, in 2 weeks, where could we be? We could be the top of this channel, or let's say the 20, 50, or maybe even the 21 range. So you might pick up something like an 18 spread, buy the 18s and sell the 21s, and see if that makes sense. And when I say makes sense, you want to be making at least 2.5 times your money, or if you're paying $2 for that, it should be something, you wouldn't be paying $2. But if I was buying a spread, I had a 5-point move in it, I wouldn't want to pay any more than $2 for it, just because of the elements of risk that you have already placed against you, which is the bid-ask spread, the time element, and the fact that you have to have the magnitude of the move correct. So that's, you want to make sure you've got, calls are thinly traded on NRF, okay. So you want to have enough leverage or enough upside potential, because you're not going to make money on every single trade. The ones that don't work, you're not going to lose 3, 5, 7, 10%. You're going to lose 15, 20, 30% because you still have the bid-ask spread against you. The difference between a kicker and a flutter kicker. Can anybody remember where our flutter kicker was? Oh, maybe it was Tweeter. This I have is kind of a flutter kicker type. Usually this day, notice where this day opened and closed down here. The next day they opened at the previous day. Now usually what happens is they'll do a doji day in here. And so if it did a doji, we have a simple rule of a doji. It's going to move in the direction how they open it after a doji. So if they opened a positive, it means they're going positive. That's a flutter kicker, which means if you took out the little doji, you essentially have a kicker signal. Now the advantage to a kicker signal is you can get prepared for it. If this was a doji day and they opened a positive the next day, you've already got your money established. Whereas something that is a kicker signal, did I do that? No, CMRX is not a kicker signal. I thought you had one there for me. Anybody remember where there was a kicker signal recently? No. Anyways, a kicker signal, AMX, that was a flutter kicker signal. Yes, this has the potential of being a flutter kicker. Notice where this doji opened today, above the open of the candle of Friday, and it had traded lower. Then they gapped it up above the previous day's open. Now, if this opens positive, what's our simple rule of a doji? It's going to move in the direction of how they open it. So if it opens positive, you want to be buying immediately because you probably can figure you're going to have a good day. And if it does close up here with a green candle, if you took out the doji, you'd basically have a down day, and then they gapped it up and went the opposite direction. Rio was a kicker. Yeah, that's kind of your kicker signal. Opened here, closed here. The next day they gapped it up above the previous day's open and went the opposite direction. Red. Yeah, this is a bearish kicker. Notice how they were taking it up, and the next day they opened it below the previous day's low or open and went this direction. That means there's going to be a lot more downside. And eGov, is that a trend kicker? Yeah, trend kicker is when you see a trend moving up, and then they take it down, and the next day gap it up and take it this direction. This is in a trend. This is not at the reversal point, but it's called a trend kicker. I say it's called. I've named it a trend kicker because it's pretty much telling you the uptrend has a lot of force in it. It's still going to go a lot higher. Oops, did I do that wrong? Pay X. Yes, there's your kicker signal right there. Now remember, the Flutter kicker had a little doji in between. This one just opened here and closed here, then opened at or above the previous day's open and went the opposite direction. That tells you there's still a lot more upside. There was another one that GPro have a, this is kind of a little trend kicker here also on GGov, or not GPro. Opened here, closed here, then opened above the previous day's open and went this direction. That means there's more upside. So if there's more upside to this, what's this tell us about this pattern? Looks like the J-hook pattern is probably going to be performing. And if this is wave one, this is wave two. This moved up from 65 to 95, 30 points. 85, another 30 points could take you up to the $115 range. Okay, with that, Jim, let's go ahead and do the double line. And in 3.8 seconds, do another double line. All right, trying to scroll back up faster than and GDX, nothing here. You've got a bullish Harami, but you have to get above that T line. Yep, all right. Just got to scroll up again. EWC, nothing here yet either. You stay short until you see a buy signal and a close above the T line. XIV, I don't know if that's going to come up. It did come up. XIV, that's kind of a junky market, or junky chart. If you're long, it has to open positive tomorrow to stay in it. And GDXJ, another bullish Harami. You can buy on positive trading tomorrow. You just have to be very conscious of what it does once it gets to the T line. NXPI, another one that you can get ready to go short with the anticipation that if they open this lower after kind of your double doji session in here, failure at the T line, where's your next target? Down here at the 200-day moving average, which would kind of coincide with the low previously. Blocks backed off today. Still has a good-looking chart, but it needs to open positive tomorrow to show that the uptrend is still in progress. Notice how it used the T line right today as support. And VDSI, big dark cloud, closed right on the 3T line. Makes it very simple. If they open this positive, you stay with it. If they open it negative, get ready to close it out, especially if they open lower and start trading down below the T line. That tells you that, remember, the bigger the signal, the more compelling there's been a change of investor sentiment. And that was a big signal today, that dark cloud. Loco, another good-looking chart. Notice the wedge. Can kind of draw this. I will draw this just because it's so much fun. No, I don't want to do that. I want to do trend. All right, kind of got, oops. Yeah, this is fun if you're not spastic. All right, so you got kind of this wedge formation setting up. So you can be buying this because that's got a doji sandwich, which tells us at least the next place you want to look for resistance is right up here. Now, if it breaks through there, well, you've got a good, strong wave 3 in progress. And wave 1, whoops, not a very old chart apparently. But if it breaks through, let's say the $40 range, it's got a lot more upside to it. KERX, just stay long as you don't see a sell signal. At this point, I wouldn't want to see it close back below the 50 before the T-line catches up to it. That would just kind of be confirming your hanging man today. OHI, that's a good-looking chart. Stay long on this one. Your next target is approximately the 50, which would be testing this area to see that once it acted as support, now seeing if it's going to act as resistance. And RYN, you can be buying this. There's that morning star signal. Now you're coming up through the T line. First target is here. Second target, there's a gap to fill up here. Just be aware that your rate of return on this one is just not, it's a REIT. Your rate of return as far as the price move is not great. So if you're buying this one, it should be buying on the basis that it's time to buy and that your investment or your dividend return is fairly strong. Restoration Hardware, running into a little trouble here at the 50. Now this is what we call the bobble, which is they come up, hit the 50, pull back, and use the T-line as support, and then go back up through it. So it kind of bobbles around here at the resistance level until the T-line forces it back up through. MEI, this one you can buy on positive trading tomorrow because it's going to move in the direction of how they open it after a doji. And if they open up positive, they're taking it back up at least to test the recent highs. STNG, stay long on this one. Just be aware of what it does once it gets to the 50, which is part of this downtrending channel. And ABEV, another one that I would suspect will back off until the T-line catches up. So if this one opens lower, you take your profits. If it all of a sudden turns around and comes back up to the 50, you can buy it back. But I would suspect once it hit the 50 and there was profit taking, you got to see if the profit taking is going to come all the way back down to the T-line, or the T-line catches up. Cooper Tire, that one with a gap up doji, or from the doji, got to see when the profit taking's over. You can buy it, especially if it comes back up through today's open, but also be aware of the lack of magnitude of price movement on this one. It doesn't look all that fantastic. DHX, slow curve wedge formation. I would rather pay for it breaking out through this downward trend channel. And THI. This one you can be buying, but again, the move is already there. I would rather buy it if there's something going on, or if this is wave one, wave two, I'd rather buy it on the breakout of this downtrending channel. Let's make this bigger. I'd rather buy it on strength, knowing that they've broken out through that little downtrend, which means you could be in a wave three after that. USLV, you can buy this if it opens positive above the T-line tomorrow after today's best friend signal. And UGAZ, that one I wouldn't be long or short. That one's as sideways as you can get. GE, I wouldn't be long or short this one, mostly because of the lack of movement or lack of magnitude of move. This one's just obviously an institutional trader. Yeah, there's just nothing exciting about GE unless you're a big institution and want to put it away for a few years. GDX, let's make this bigger, but gold is not in any big movement. It had a bullish Harami today. I still wouldn't, if you were buying on positive trading tomorrow, it has to get through the T-line very quickly. And GLD, there's your bullish Harami. It has to get up through the T-line before I'd be buying this one, and then use the T-line as your stop. True had a good looking chart. Backing off today, but if this, notice that it used the 3T as a support, you're still in this big J-hook pattern. And notice right here, right at the 50-day moving average, a bunch of indecision, and then they told you what the decision was. So there's wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 should take you up in about the $29, $30 area. WFC, nothing I'd get real excited about just because of the lack of magnitude of movement, number one, and number two, because it's not a real strong chart. I guess if you're long, you can stay long. It's just nothing that would intrigue me as far as being a very active trader. And Home Depot, you can buy this one if it breaks out through, let's say, the 94.50 range, telling you that wave 3 is in progress. Right now, it hasn't done that. Mobley, did I do that backwards? How could I do that? There's only 4 letters, and I goof up 2 of them. This one needed to break out to the upside. It didn't close below the T-line, but you had a gap up, shooting star, now a bearish engulfing signal. It has to open positive tomorrow to stay in it. If it opens lower, close it out. You've got too much strength on the sell side, which means you're probably at a double top versus a breakout. VMI, this one you can be buying. Just be aware of what it does. If it opens positive, it's breaking this whole downward trend channel. Then just watch to see what it does once it gets to the 50. ZIILG. That's kind of your cradle type pattern. You can buy this on positive trading. Use the T-line as your stop. And TRW. TRW, I'd rather pay 104.50 knowing that it broke through this level. You've got the slow curve setting up. If I was buying this, I'd have a stop up here, but if it broke out, it puts me in it. Oops, Facebook. Facebook just does not have, even though it's in a slow uptrend, there's nothing major here to tell you to be buying this one. I still wouldn't be long or short Facebook at this point. There's no pattern to it. It's just a very lethargic, slow uptrend with the emphasis on slow. Whiting, looking to buy this one back. It's kind of stalled here near the 200. This is a long-term hold, and we'll be adding some more as soon as we see another buy signal after the pullback. HCHN, another one that is still in a downtrend, and you see a close above the T-line. Right now, you can stay short on this one if you're short. JetBlue. This one has to stay above the T-line, or it's back into its downtrending channel. And Lulu, another one that I'd be more apt to go short on the bearish, or on the evening star type signal, which would, after flat trading, would be more of an indication of a slingshot effect to the downside. If you were long AN from last week, where would you exit? Oh, you don't have a sell signal. You're still above the 50. I would probably use the low of this candle right here, because if they came back down through this level, that means they're coming back to the T-line. Then you'll have to reevaluate to see when it's time to come back in. Caterpillar, I wouldn't be buying the puts here, but if you own the puts, you want to see this not trading very positive tomorrow. Your percentage move from here back up to the T-line isn't all that great. But if I had the puts on this and the market opened positive, telling me the Dow was moving higher and this one was moving higher, I'd probably close out my puts. Tesla, stay long on this one. There's a gap to fill up there. Okay, thank you, Grant. Amazon also is kind of in the doldrums, having a hard time getting out of this downtrending channel. If I was buying this one, it would have to be coming back up through today's open. Fold, you stay with, but it has to open positive tomorrow to stay in it. If it starts trading lower, it's caught in the downtrending channel. An INFA. Uh-oh. How did you guys scroll past me? INFA, you can be buying this one on positive trading. That'd be kind of your doji sandwich. Notice your little hammer gap up through the resistance level. If it opens positive, doji sandwich tells you that you're going up to the 200-day moving average. MPEL, another one that you can be buying. Just also be aware of what happens when it gets to the downtrending channel resistance level. ALNX, not found. Did I do that wrong? ALNX. Looks like I did that right. It would be ANLX. That one's not found either. Did Tesla. Nu Skin. Nu Skin. There's that fry pan bottom. There's your little Morningstar signal. It's little because we made it little. Let's make it big. There's your little Morningstar signal, slingshot effect. You can be buying this one, especially if it comes up through the 50. Silver. Silver might be popping. Had a kicker type signal today. You can buy this one on positive trading tomorrow above the T-line. Use the T-line as your stop. And BCRX. That one has a bearish harami. You're probably going to get the little bobble in here. It's going to trade in between the 50 and the T-line until the T-line pushes it back up through the 50. Credit Suisse, not anything that I'd get real excited about because of the lack of magnitude of movement. But if it starts trading positive, that still means the market's not going to be selling off very hard. The foreign banks did show a lot of strength today, so you could be buying this one. As I say, just look at the lack of magnitude of price movement. We did Cooper Tire, CZZ. This one has to stay above the T-line. I'd watch to see when the profit taking is over, which was from the open today, but it did break the downtrend. So you keep an eye on this to see when the profit taking is over. You can be buying on this strength because it did do a hammer gap up after an inverted hammer, telling you that there's some new enthusiasm coming into that stock. And Rally, you should have closed this one out. It needed to be heading up. Now you're closed below the T-line. You can always buy it back on the next strong buy signal. BLE. Is this another REIT? Now, let's see, BlackRock Municipal Trust, Income Trust B. Oh, boy. You can be buying this one because it's probably heading back up to this trend channel and doing a 45-degree off of that one. And SEMP. SEMP did a big shooting star today. Put your sell stop right here. If it comes back through there, it's coming back down to the T-line. It needs to stay positive from this point. SanDisk, stay short. That's a stock that's got the potential of going to the 200-day moving average. AutoZone was getting a little bit soggy. Came back to the T-line. It has to open positive and to stay in it. And AVNR is a wedge. We closed it out when it closed below the T line. Still not going to get back in until it shows which way it wants to move. Right now, it's definitely indecisive. MNOV, little gap up kicker type signal, but more of a double doji setup. I wouldn't be afraid to be buying this one on positive trading tomorrow. And use the halfway point of this candle as your stop, because if it came back down and closed back below the halfway point, you're back into the trading range. You're buying this one on the basis that it broke out through the trading range. Whoops. QIHU, having trouble getting back up above the T line. If this one opens lower, you can still stay short or start shorting it. Pretty much tells you the T line is still acting as resistance. We did fold. Fold has to open positive tomorrow to stay in it. FCN. What did I type? FCN. That's better. Can't believe my fingers are so fat that it can hit things on the other line. Let's make this smaller to see what it's doing. FCN, I wouldn't be long or short this one. It doesn't have any strength. It doesn't have any weakness. That's a sideways looking chart. AKS. Yep, stay with the puts. Notice what it did today. And this, I say this so that you notice what it did today. It hit the T line and failed from there. That told you they weren't going to take it up above the T line. It still probably has more downside to it. I think we did silver. Silver, a little kicker signal you can be buying. The Russell 2000. Stay short if you're trading the index. FEYE did a hammer type signal right at the support level. Makes this very simple. If they open this positive and start trading positive, you close out your short position. If they, oh, this is ridiculous. I've got two little fly traps plus a big strip of fly paper all over my desk, and they still buzz around my ears. That just is enough to make you kick your grandmother. FEYE is short this one if it opens lower. That tells you the hammer failed today, and they're going down below this level, meaning you're in a next wave to the downside. Let's see, we did fold. Is it a good idea to buy at the money calls on a Morningstar signal? If I think the market is not selling off, or it's got at least a good possibility of continuing its uptrend, yes, I'll buy some calls on a Morningstar signal at the end of the day. Otherwise, I'm more apt to buy it the next day. But oh, that's great. But there's sometimes, and the reason I buy sometimes on the close if I think there's more upside in the morning, because sometimes you get a situation like this where they pop it up real big. Let's see, we did NQ. NQ, you stay long, especially if this opens positive tomorrow. You can still be buying this with the anticipation that if they break this out, they're taking it up to the 200-day moving average. ALXN. Closed, bounced off the 3T. It needs to open positive. If it opens lower, they're coming back to the T line. So you just make a decision on whether you want to get out and get back in. Let's see, ION. That one didn't work. S.ION. Still didn't work. we did passed over TANW. Another one you stay with, but you want to see it open positive also. An opening positive is they could open it slightly lower and watch to see if they're taking it down. If they're just wobbling it in here and start bringing it back up, you stay with it. And that might take 1, 3, 5, 7, 8 minutes after the open. ACAS, having a hard time getting back up above the T line. Another one that you could possibly go short if it opens weaker tomorrow, telling you the T line is still acting as resistance. Oh, I've bought all sorts of traps. Upstairs in the kitchen, I think they're coming out of some of her darn house plants, out of the dirt. BVN. This one, if you're short, you cover on a positive open. I would use today's high as a stop, because if it came back up through there, it'd be confirming the hammer type signal, and it would tell you they're trading back up above the 3T, which means they're going to come up to the T line. Didn't even see what it was. INO, stay long. You know, all you can do is stay long on this one. Nice little fry pan. SPLK. Yes. If this opens lower, you take your profits, and then you just watch to see what it does once it gets to the T line. If it's showing evidence that it's not going low, below it, you get ready to buy it back coming up through the T line. INO. Oh, okay, we did that one. USO. USO still in a slow downtrend. I probably wouldn't be buying or shorting this right at this moment. And Tweeter needs to open positive. No, it doesn't need to open positive, but needs to stay above the 3T line. If it opens positive, especially coming back up through today's open, you'd want to be a buyer because you've got the little kicker type signal breaking you out into wave 3. Scotty puts. Yes, you can be buying the puts on this one, especially if it trades lower. DDD popped up a little bit, but nothing of any great consequence. So still short this one. And I don't know whether XONE, same scenario, nothing here yet. If they open this lower, breaking this support level, I think you got a lot more downside. In Office Depot, another one that if it doesn't open positive, trade positive, well, you shouldn't, still shouldn't even be in this one. If this was one that if you had bought on positive trading and it closed back here, you should have closed it back out. Again, this is part of that mental discipline to say, I'm buying because I know it's heading or should be heading in this direction. And when it closes back below the T line, the probabilities of it heading in that direction have been diminished quite a bit. Close it right out. You'll be thankful if you can get through the emotional trauma of closing out bad positions quickly and just sitting, putting them back into cash. Because I can guarantee you, if you put that money into a good trade, you'll be amazed how fast you forget the trades that went against you. On Friday, you mentioned closed puts. Yes, I would have been closing the puts. Now I'd be reestablishing those puts somewhat the same lines as, which one was it? Oh, soda. Soda. I closed out put positions and reestablished put positions when it became evident that they weren't taking it up from this point. Okay, I guess that's all we got for tonight. Tomorrow will be very important when you wake up to see which way the pre-market futures are going. If they're opening positive, they're taking it up. But there's too many of the indexes that definitely need to open positive. If this opens lower, or it looks like it's opening lower, this kind of the dumpling top in the NASDAQ is still telling us they're taking it down. And if they've failed up here at the 50 and taken it down, where do you think our next target is? Down here at the 200-day moving average at this support level. Okay, with that, everybody have a good evening. We will see you bright and early in the chat rooms.